So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day to everybody who has logged in today for this webinar. I'm Purnima and I'm going to be your host today for this webinar. I'm a writer from India. I'm also an editor on World Moms Network and a certified heartfulness trainer. Judith Nelson is my co-host from Scotland and she is also a certified heartfulness trainer.
Hello everyone, lovely to be with you today.
Yeah. Same here. On behalf of Heartfulness Institute, we welcome all of you to this month's GLOW webinar. Heartfulness meditation is available in over 100 countries with more than 8,000 trainers in different parts of the world. Heartfulness Institute teaches heartfulness meditation and other holistic tools to people all over the world through workshops organized in corporates, schools, universities, communities, and other places of worship and just about everywhere. Here at Heartfulness Institute, we also find unique and interesting ways to bring heartfulness meditation and its benefits to everyone. So we've started this unique webinar series, which is called GLOW, which stands for Genuine, Loving, Outstanding Women. And this is a series of monthly online workshops for women everywhere who can learn and practice heartfulness meditation from the comfort of their homes and workplaces. The aim is to help women integrate meditation practice into their daily life so that they can have a peaceful and balanced life which is better suited for their benefit. So in these webinars, we always bring you expert women, expert speakers, women from various outstanding fields, women from various fields who are influencers and change makers. Today, when we are going to deal with this topic, autism, we have Kristen Doyle as our keynote speaker. Kristen Doyle is one of the top 10 inspiring Canadian women according to a survey in 2012. She's also Toronto's top 30 parenting bloggers. She's a writer and editor, and she's involved in raising awareness in the autism community. So she's also a blogger who has a blog called runningforautism.com. She provides a lot of resources for parents of children diagnosed with autism. It's her belief that with the right environment and support, all children with autism are capable of shining in their own unique, special way. She's outspoken in her advocate for mental health awareness. She's also got a degree in psychology from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Her elder son, now 13 years old, was diagnosed with autism when he was just 4. So as she's navigated this autism journey, she has understood how families can be impacted by this presence as a developmental disability. And she's done a lot of research. She's also a regular half marathoner. She's a firm believer in the link that, physical activity can improve mental health. Kristen Doyle has also attended her first heartfulness meditation session over a year ago when we had these heartfulness webinars on World Moms Network. So, hello, Kristen, and we warmly welcome you to this webinar today.
Hi, it's really good to be here.
Nice, yeah. So, today, Kristen is going to speak about autism and how to provide a nourishment for families with autism. As you know, April is Autism Awareness Month. So, this month, Heartfulness Institute brings you a webinar for autism especially, so that we can help create an awareness, information and understanding about autism. Because these things, that is understanding and awareness, is one of the important ways we can empower this autism community, the caregivers for people with autism. In 2014, one of the top 5 Googled question was, what is autism? So it's not that we've really navigated, the world has not really navigated a long journey with autism. People still have this question, what is autism? What is it? What is it not? So we believe that, by having a webinar where we can share this information and understanding about autism, we would really be empowering not only the families and caregivers of autism, we'll be empowering all of us ourselves. We need to show empathy, we need to have understanding, and we need to help people with autism shine in their fields. So I'm really grateful to Kristen that she's taken her time out and she's here with all of us to share about autism. So, let us go to the first question. What is autism, Kristen?
Well, autism is a neurological condition that it affects everybody differently, but in general, people with autism have deficits in language and communication skills, in social skills. Some of them are cognitively impaired, so they may underperform academically. They may have trouble learning life skills and keeping themselves safe. So, for instance, someone with autism may recognize that a red light means you have to stop, but they may not necessarily translate that into real life, so they may just cross the road without looking for traffic, regardless of what color the light is. So, just to be very clear, it's not a disease. It's not something to be cured. It's something to be managed. And it's really a state where the brain is wired differently, and you can see that on MRIs of brains of people with autism. Their brains actually are physically structured in a different way, and they work differently to those of what we call neurotypical people, which is people who don't have autism.
Okay. So this is how is it diagnosed? Is this how it is diagnosed? With your, like the MRI scans?
Well, it's because autism affects everyone so differently, and it is a spectrum disorder or a spectrum condition. So you can be mildly autistic, or you can be severely autistic. So it's a whole spectrum. And because it affects everybody differently, you have to look at many different aspects of the person. So to diagnose autism, typically the child would be seen by a variety of different medical professionals. So they'd be seen by a speech and language pathologist, they'd be seen by an occupational therapist, by a medical doctor, by a psychologist, by all kinds of, it could be up to 6 or 7 different professionals, and they all combine their findings into a single consolidated report. And they also send questionnaires home to the parents, to any teachers. They're very involved, very detailed questionnaires. They look at video of the child's behavior, and they combine all of that to come up with their diagnosis. It's a very lengthy process. When my son was diagnosed, it took about a month of consultations and appointments.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. So that's really a long process. It's, so how long is the spectrum? Like, can you tell me more about the spectrum?
Well, the spectrum is quite wide. You get people who are on one end of the spectrum. At most, they might have a little bit of social awkwardness. They might struggle to find words when they're having conversations, but in general, they're fully verbal. They can be fully integrated into a regular classroom environment. They may have a little bit of trouble making friends, or they may have a little bit of trouble. They might be the person who goes to a party and kind of doesn't really know what to do. But in general, they can function independently. They know how to keep themselves safe. They can go on to live completely independently and function fully in a career. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you get the people who don't have any vocabulary. They don't have any concept of safety or danger, and that actually is a problem for a big segment of the autistic population. Autistic people are twice as likely as the general population to die prematurely of accidental causes.
Oh.
And that is because they don't have that awareness of how to keep themselves safe. So they'll, for example, wander away and drown in a river. And they're the people who need complete supervision even as adults. They are not able to live independently. They have to have support for their whole lives. And then you get all variations in between.
Okay. Thank you so much. So is there something which causes autism? Can you say this causes autism, that does not cause autism? It may be a naive question, but
that's the $1 million question. No one knows. No one knows what causes autism. But what we know does not cause autism is parenting. A couple of decades ago, there was really quite a cruel theory that was going around that autism was caused by something called refrigerator parenting. So people were effectively blaming the mothers, mostly the mothers of children, for the child's autism. They were saying that the mothers weren't affectionate enough, or they weren't giving their children enough attention, or they weren't, it was whatever the mother was doing was causing the autism. And there's absolutely no credence to that whatsoever. So parenting style does not cause autism. What you ate or did not eat during pregnancy does not cause autism. There might be some environmental factors, but really we don't know. And just to address the big elephant in the room that a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about, vaccines do not cause autism. There has been a lot of debate over that in recent years. To this day, it causes a lot of division both inside and outside of the autism community. But just to let the science and the research speak for itself, vaccines do not cause autism, and that is a belief that actually is creating a resurgence of some childhood diseases that were on the verge of being completely obliterated.
Okay, thank you. When you said that there could be some environmental causes, I was just wondering, not causes as such, but about how we, interact with the child when he has been diagnosed with autism. Probably, the negative words which we use or the negative environment which we provide certainly carries with it a negative vibration, and positive words carry positive vibration. So how you want your child to be, how you want it to react, it could be a reflection, or it could be label, it could be a reflection of how you interact with it. So after it has been diagnosed, our positivity could help it navigate this journey in an easy way. And,
absolutely.
Going in that direction, I would like to ask you, is this a gift? Can you call this a gift in some way? Can you call this a blessing in some way? Because you are also, getting empowered yourself when you're navigating this journey with your child. So, what do you feel about it also being called a gift or a blessing?
Well, I would be cautious about referring to it as a gift, just out of recognition for the families who have children who are very seriously impaired, and for them it is an extreme challenge. But I will say that no matter where a child is on the spectrum, they do have something to offer, and there is some strength, and it is just a question of honing that strength and using it and expanding on it. There are a lot of things that we wouldn't have today if it weren't for people who are on the autism spectrum. There is some speculation, and of course we don't know because, we just didn't have the tools to diagnose it, way back then. But there is some speculation that people like Albert Einstein had autism. We do know that he underperformed at school in his early school years. There's some speculation that Mozart was autistic. It is well known that he was famous for not managing life skills, not managing money, not managing social skills. But he was an absolute musical genius, and that does kind of fit in with how a lot of autistic people are. A lot of people who have masterminded technological developments are on the autism spectrum. One of the most famous autistic people who is alive today is Temple Grandin. She was profoundly impaired as a child, but her mother never gave up on her. Her mother ensured that she got all of the education and all of the opportunities. Today, Temple Grandin holds a PhD in animal sciences. And she has a unique gift for being able to communicate with animals. And she has used this to create abattoirs that are humane to the animals, that creates less stress for them, that is less cruel. The butchering of animals is not something that we ever like to talk about because it can be barbaric, but she has done a tremendous amount of work to make it more humane and less stressful for the animals. She is now, I believe, working on the transportation of animals to make that better as well. So there are a lot of things that we just would not have if it weren't for people with autism. So absolutely, there are a lot of blessings that come with it in terms of their character as well. There's kind of a joke in the autism community that, we tend to celebrate strange things as autism parents, and one of the things we celebrate is the first time our child tells a lie. Because autistic people, they tell it like it is, they are not, they're not good at deception. And, but telling a lie does require some kind of cognitive functioning. So the first time the child tells a lie, it's like, yes.
That is so interesting. That is so nice. Okay. So it looks like, of course, I understand that it's speculation that perhaps Mozart and Einstein could have a dash of autism. But, that speculation sounds more or less truth if you want to look at it that way, because without a dash of autism, it looks like major breakthroughs, major discoveries in science and technology could be like, slightly difficult. You need to have a slight temperament. You need to have an offset to, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different way. It's a different way of thinking, and part of this is because of the way the brain is wired. If you look at the MRI of a person who does not have autism, and you see what parts of the brain light up during certain activities, it's in most of us it's fairly balanced, and our brains are incredibly efficient machines. So in order for a neurological impulse to get from one part of the brain to the other, it takes the shortest, most direct possible route. It's kind of like, you're driving from, for example, Toronto to Montreal here in Canada. You take the highway. That's what's going to get you there faster. But in people with autism, that efficiency isn't really there to the same extent. And those neurological impulses kind of take the scenic route, and they kind of travel around the brain some more, and it results in it might take them longer to get there, to get to whatever their objective is, to learn whatever the skill is, or to solve the problem. It might take them longer. But because their brains are working in such a different way, they are having thoughts and problem-solving methods that just would not occur to the rest of us. And to use the driving analogy again, it's kind of like taking the back roads instead of the highway. It's going to take you longer to get there, but you might see a beautiful waterfall or a forest on the way that you wouldn't have seen if you'd stayed on the highway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it makes me think that probably the first caveman who made hunting tools, who made hunting tools with his stones and spears, probably he could have had a dash of autism. Probably the guy who started agriculture, who the ancient man who decided to settle down and start agriculture, probably he could have had a dash of autism because he wanted to have a comfortable, it's the possibilities are. You just help me, think a lot about this. So, but coming to the practical aspect of this, how do you think you can give a safe, caring environment for the caregivers, for the family members who are having, who are having to deal with autistic children on an everyday basis, like for instance parents or teachers or other people who are going to always be around them?
Yeah, well, when you get into a plane and you have your safety demonstration on a plane and they show you, how to use your oxygen and all of that kind of stuff, one of the things they always say to you is put your own mask on first before you help someone else. And that is a concept that really does carry through to taking care of a child with autism. You have to take care of yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're burning out and you're putting your own health at risk, your physical health and your mental health, you're putting it at risk. And then how are you going to be able to take care of somebody else if you're not in a fit state yourself? So self-care is very, very important, and it's never an either-or thing. It's not mutually exclusive. You take care of yourself while you're taking care of your child. But you cannot, the message here is that you cannot neglect yourself. You cannot neglect your relationships. Something that I found out when my son was diagnosed with autism is that, and I found this out from my family doctor, he said that up to 80% of parents of children with disabilities or chronic illnesses get divorced.
Oh my God.
And you can see why that happens, because when your child is diagnosed with autism, everything becomes about them. You spend all of your time doing research or looking for intervention and treatment options and just doing everything you can for your child. But if you don't maintain a balance, then that can be at the expense of everything else in your life. So your relationship with your spouse can suffer. Your relationships with your other children, your relationships with your friends, your own sense of physical and mental well-being and satisfaction and happiness, all of that can suffer. So you have to pay attention to all of those other aspects of your life. And part of that is just